Hi everybody, it's Thursday night, which means it's demo night here at Now You're Cooking. Tonight is a very special night for us because it's the kickoff to our weekend to benefit Ukraine. Tomorrow, Friday the 29th, Saturday the 30th, and Sunday, May 1st, we are going to donate 10% of all of our sales for the weekend to an organization called United Help Ukraine, which is supplying humanitarian aid to Ukraine right now. They've been around since the Crimea War in 2014. So we are excited to be able to send some money and do our part to help the people in Ukraine. And that also means that you are doing your part by coming and shopping here. So we have some sales to send 10% of to Ukraine. I want to also thank a couple of people. Kate Cutco from Bodenham is responsible for dropping off this beautiful table runner, Ukrainian eggs, and the little babushka with her plate full of varenyky, which are the dumplings we're going to be making tonight. They are very similar to Polish Pierogies, if you know what those are. So that's what we're making tonight. I also want to thank Ash and Tom over at Bath Printing. They have supplied us with stickers to hand out to our customers over the weekend. Stand with Ukraine. And so we'll be handing these out also over the weekend. And a special guest, Joy Giuliani, is here. She has just recently come back from Poland, where you were doing some work with refugees.
Yes.
Yep.
I was there for 2 weeks in March and came home for a week, went back for 2 weeks with some other people.
Awesome.
And we got back last night.
Cool. Well, I'm going to start mixing up my dough, and then I'd love to hear about what was happening there and kind of what you saw, boots on the ground with the refugees and stuff. So to get started, I'm just going to put everything in here and mix it while we're talking to Joy. But it's going to be 5 cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of softened room temperature butter, a cup of evaporated, not condensed milk. Condensed milk is the really thick, sweet stuff. This is evaporated milk. And then we'll add some water if we need to. So I'm going to get started on that. But so what specifically were you doing there?
The first 2 weeks, I was mostly working with a mission organization that has a crisis team. They're just kind of helping them with whatever they needed, errands, or we were searching for some housing for refugees, things like that. I also walked into the tent at the main train station that serves meals 24 hours and asked if I could volunteer. The World Central Kitchen is set up there, and a Dutch organization had started a fresh fruit bar that serves fruit salad every day, about 1,000 portions. Wow. And that's kind of where I sort of ended up, like my little niche there. But sometimes I would help serve with the World Central Kitchen too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was the first couple of weeks.
So 1,000 fruit cups, was that enough for all the people, or how many people were coming through every day?
Well, I asked the World Central Kitchen how much they serve, and they said about 4,000 a day. Wow. So we started processing fruit around 9 in the morning and serving around 10. And we were usually done by about noon, but the World Central Kitchen would serve much, much longer than that. Mm-hmm. And there was also a soup station that was run by a couple of different organizations that also served soup pretty much around the clock, I think. And then a couple of hot drink stations for tea and coffee and hot chocolate and things like that. So.
Oh, I thought I had a gadget fail here. So I'm just going to add a cup of this. So that sounds like it was really rewarding. It must have been hard, though, too, to see all these people that are suffering. And
yeah, and between the 2 trips, 2 different times that I was there, I did see some of the same people
that were still there
for
2 or 3
multiple
weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I've recognized a lot of them. There were also several Ukrainians volunteering at the tent as well. Mm-hmm. I think they just really want to do their part in the war effort, and so volunteering is a way that they can contribute as well. So, but there were people from all over the world.
Yeah. That's
monitoring.
awesome.
Yeah.
So you also said when you went back for the second 2 weeks, you took your daughter with you. How old is she?
She's 13. She's in 7th grade at Shawanki, and she plays the violin. So we brought her violin, and she played the Ukrainian national anthem pretty much every day in the food tent.
That gives me chills.
So
That's
she
so
would
amazing.
stand up on a chair or a bench, and people would start standing up where they were, and some would have their hands over their heart, some would have tears. It was a really, really special thing for her to do.
It sounds pretty amazing, yeah. For her and for them too, to have that. So just a note, because it's me and you all know me by now, I may have accidentally put 6 cups of flour in here because it's really dry. So I just added more water and some more of the milk to this. So this is just typical, especially when I'm talking to somebody about something really interesting. It is kind of a rough dough, but I am going to add a little tiny bit more of the milk just to get that stuff on the bottom.
It's a very forgiving recipe.
It is very forgiving, yes, it is. It's all going to get kind of rolled out and stuffed with stuff, so it doesn't really matter. You want it to be pretty tender, but if you can roll it fairly thin, if it's a little bit overworked like this is probably going to be, it's still going to taste good. I'm used to making pierogies after spending some time in Poland, and this is a little bit different than the dough that I usually make. I'm not making excuses for myself. I'm just saying. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to let this rest for a little while we make our filling. So did you go to Ukraine at all? Were you able to get into the country?
I did not try. I might have been able to go on a convoy. The organization that I was working with, besides at the tent, takes convoys in with supplies, and they also help people evacuate and find placement throughout Europe if they don't already have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
So it's possible that I could have gone in, but that wasn't really my main purpose in being there. I did go the second time back when I took my daughter. I also took a friend who's a nurse practitioner, and she really wanted to go into Ukraine and see the hospitals and things like that, but we didn't end up going.
Yeah.
We did take 15 large duffel bags full of medical supplies, and
From this country?
from the States, and we took 2 big insulated cooler bags of insulin, and all of those went on the convoys into Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
And we also had started a GoFundMe, and so while we were there, we were able to purchase other medical supplies and bulk food order, things like that.
Fantastic.
Necessities to go in.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So.
Thank you for doing that. So I am making the filling here. So this is potatoes that I've mashed up, so they're no big chunks. It's a whole large onion. I think the recipe says 2 medium. I used 1 whole. And a lot of butter. And I'm also going to add some cheddar cheese, which is not strictly Ukrainian, but that's what the recipe called for. And it was written by a Ukrainian woman, so that's what we're going with. And I can attest to the fact that these are amazingly delicious. So I'm just going to mix that up really well. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. And this is just salt and pepper to taste. So if you're not a salt eater, don't put any salt in, or put a little bit of salt in. If you like it nice and peppery, like I do, add lots of pepper. If you don't like pepper, don't add pepper. Again, like the dough, it's pretty forgiving. So that is all mixed up nicely. And this, by the way, if you have leftover potatoes, just eat it like mashed potatoes. It's amazing with the onions and all that butter and the cheese and stuff in there. It's really yummy. Okay, I'm going to turn on my water because we're going to boil some. Turn on the right heater. I'm going to boil some water so that we can cook these when we're done with them. And I am going to take a little bit of this dough and I'm going to knead it just a little bit. So this recipe makes quite a lot of the Varenyky. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. And so what you can do is you roll them out, you make them, eat what you want, and then you can freeze the leftovers. They're really easy to freeze. You just put them on a sheet pan or on a cutting board, not touching each other so they don't stick. Put them in the freezer overnight and then just put them in an airtight container. Take them out as you need them. They're great for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, however you want to eat them. And while I'm doing this, I also want to mention Oxbow Brewery has heeded the call of a brewery in, I'm going to say this wrong, but Lviv. I don't know how they say it in Ukrainian. I'm sorry. My apologies. And they put out a call and asking independent brewers to make one of their recipes and send the proceeds to Oxbow, sending it to UNICEF. I don't know if all of them are. So this is a Ukrainian recipe, and it's Brew for Ukraine. And it is made by Oxbow, who's up in Newcastle. And it's very tasty, and you should come try it. It's a wheat beer. And they also had some help from Allagash Brewing, help provide some of the ingredients. So it's kind of a team effort there. But the proceeds from this beer, your purchases, will also go to UNICEF. So if you buy the beer from us, you're getting a double donation because it's going to UNICEF and it's also going to United Help Ukraine, which is the organization that we are sending our donation to. And I'm sorry, I've got a huge mess here going. So these are also really fun to do in a group with some friends or family. They're pretty easy for kids to make. You want to get them pretty thin, although the dough is pretty tasty, so if they're super thick, that's okay too. But you'll get more out of it, out of the recipe, if you roll it pretty thin. And then you want to cut, this is a little big, but you want to cut about a 3-inch circle. Do you want to fill some?
Sure.
Did you make pierogies when you were living in Poland?
Yes. Love making pierogies.
I love making them and I love eating them.
Yes. I have to say the potato pierogi are called Piraguruski.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a sign in one of the pierogi restaurants in Krakow, and the Ruski was crossed out and it was Ukrainsky.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
So here, you can take that one. Okay. So we're going to take, it's about a tablespoon or 2 teaspoons, and we put that right in the middle. And if you have some water handy, which I don't because I used it all in my dough, you can wet the sides so it sticks really well, but you shouldn't have to if it's really nice and fresh. And then you're just going to pinch the sides, and you probably make the perfect. Oh. I don't know how to make the pleats beautifully, but that is pierogi. Have another. And thank you, Joy.
You're
this is
welcome.
great. I'm so glad you came along. I'd be making these all myself.
Friday at the World Central Kitchen was Pierogi Day.
Oh, sweet.
They made the sauerkraut ones on Fridays.
I love it. Yeah, so you can make lots of different fillings for these, and there are instructions online and tons of recipes. The doughs, people make the doughs differently by family or region. The fillings change, whatever your favorite filling is. Sometimes there are special fillings for holidays, like Easter or Christmas, that they would use. And my water is almost boiling. And so we're going to boil these. You have to serve them with sour cream. I believe I read that is a Ukrainian law. You don't actually have to, but they're really good with sour cream, and the more the better. Let's do a couple more since the water's not quite boiling. And you can also, so you're going to boil them, and then you can also fry them if you want to in some more onions, or you can just eat them just boiled, and they're delicious. And I'll show you the trick to knowing when they're done is that they float. So if you are going to freeze some, you don't want to defrost them. You can just put them right into the hot water frozen. They'll just take a little bit longer, which you'll see, but again, they're not done until they float, and they will float after, maybe 5 minutes instead of 2 or 3 minutes if you put them in frozen. And you do want to make sure you get all of the edge sealed, otherwise you'll get an explosion of potato in your water. And we're boiling now, so we're going to drop these in.
Check mine.
And we're going one by one. Yours are perfect, I'm sure. So one by one, so they don't stick.
Had many explosions.
Yes, so have I. That's how you learn. That is how you learn how to make them. So those are just going to boil for a moment.
Someone was asking what cheese would be most often.
I don't know. So somebody has asked what kind of cheese would be the most authentic. For pierogies, for Polish pierogies, a farmer cheese, and I usually substitute ricotta. I'm guessing, since the recipe called for cheddar, that in Ukraine maybe they use something that's a little more piquant, a little bit more of a zing to it. But I don't really know. We could probably Google it. But I will tell you the cheddar is fantastic in it. A nice sharp cheddar gives it great flavor, and with the onions, it is delish. So I just want those to float before we say goodbye. Is there anything else you want to add about your experience working in the kitchen or doing the fruit, or you're still seeing a big need for help?
Yeah, I think a lot of the volunteers that were there just kind of showed up like I did, looking for a way to be of service, and made their way to the train station area and walked into the tent and said, "Can I help somehow?" and ended up in there. But there are other places in the city as well.
And you were in Krakow,
I was in
which
Krakow.
is in southern Poland.
Yeah, about 3 hours maybe from the border. And so a lot of the refugees have made their way to Krakow because it's one of the larger cities in the area, and more opportunities. I think easier to get to other places in Europe.
But they're
as
coming
well.
over the border, probably all along the Ukrainian-Polish border.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 main places where they come in.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's been fantastic having you here, Joy. I'm glad you
you.
stopped by to give
too.
us a little bit of more idea of what's actually happening in Eastern Europe. We get the news, but you don't always know. You're not always getting the nitty-gritty in the news. So it's great to hear that people are there helping, which is fantastic, but they still need a lot more help.
Yeah, I would say, because people are coming and going all the time.
Yeah.
Some of the volunteers are there for a couple months, and others are only there for a week or a few days or something.
And you found
so
a lot of people are
rotation.
just up, getting on a plane and flying there to see what they can do without any specific plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people are doing that.
Yeah.
I kind of had an idea of where I could help when I went. I didn't want to sort of be in the way or take up bed space that might be needed, but a lot of people are doing that. They're just going.
So we're not necessarily saying go buy a plane ticket to Poland. Probably it's a good idea to have a plan. Like you said, there's not always places for people to stay. So ways that you can help. Our benefit over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10% of sales are going to United Help Ukraine, which is a humanitarian aid organization. We have the Seeds for Peace that are up at our register. You can donate, and your cash or donation will also be sent to Ukraine. And they also have QR codes for Venmo and PayPal, so you can donate that way. Lots of great stuff happening. There was a main calling today on MPBN, was all about the ways people are helping get stuff, whether it's money or supplies or whatever, over to Ukraine and Poland and other places to help the refugees. So these are beautiful. Nice job.
Thank you.
No explosions. There's a hole in one of them, but it doesn't look like we lost too much potato. As far as serving size, last time I was in Poland, my friends made about 40 of these and put like 30 of them on a plate and said those are for you. I obviously did not eat all of them, but eat whatever you want. They're delicious. I'm not here to talk about nutrition and overeating. So they're absolutely fantastic, nurturing for your soul, and a great way to think about Ukraine and maybe have some discussions about what's happening in Ukraine over your dinner table and thinking of ways that you can help. There are a lot of grassroots things kind of popping up, people just coming up with ideas, and it's really heartwarming and beautiful to see. So again, thank you to Kate Cutco for your gorgeous display items. Thank you to Joy Giuliani for being here and talking about your time in Poland working with the refugees. Thank you to Oxbow for all you're doing with your Brew for Ukraine. And we hopefully will see you over the next couple of days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 10% of sales go to United Help Ukraine. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.